This video will look at different ways that farmers can conserve soil. I'm only going to focus on 6 specific ways that could be used here in Manitoba. There are hundreds of different soil conservation methods. I'm just going to look at the 6 that are used the most here in Manitoba. The first and the easiest are shelter belts. Shelter belts are strips of trees. They're usually 3 deep, planted along the edge of a field facing the prevailing wind. What does that look like? It looks like this. You've got your field here, your prevailing wind comes here, you've got your line of trees 3 deep so that it can prevent the wind from going between the trees, and this will protect the field from the wind just picking up the soil and blowing it all away. The advantages: all those trees will trap rain and snow and hold it in place longer so that there's actually more water available to the field itself. The roots will hold the soil in place so it doesn't blow away, and of course it prevents the wind from actually picking it up to begin with. It is super easy to do this. It is cheap, 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 and the farmer doesn't have to do anything. Once it's planted, that's it. He or she doesn't have to do anything to look after it. There's some minor disadvantages, and they're only minor ones. Some of the land does have to be used for trees, so you can't put every square inch under cultivation. And once they're there, you can't drive your tractor straight onto the field. You've got to go around the shelter belt, so slightly more gas. Like I said, very, very minor disadvantages. Then there's strip farming, and strip farming means that you plant different crops in strips on the same field. All of the crops should be planted perpendicular to the prevailing wind, but it would look like this. So here's your prevailing wind. This is just a single field, okay? So you've got one crop, a second crop, a third crop, a fourth crop. You might also have it as you've got crop A, crop B, crop A, crop B. So why would you do this? The soil will last longer because you're only taking a small amount of different nutrients out. So the soil itself is going to maintain its nutritional value. The crops will act as a bit of a windbreak, especially if you've got like a tall crop, a short crop, a tall crop, a short crop. And of course, you've got a bunch of different types of root systems, so that's better for holding all the soil in place, and it won't blow away. However, it will make it more difficult to harvest all the different crops, because you're going to have to harvest all of crop A, and even if your harvester isn't full, you've got to dump it out to go and do crop B, and then dump it and go and do crop C. So it's a little less efficient. Then there's zero tillage. Tillage refers to breaking up the surface of the soil. However, every time a farmer takes any of the machinery onto the field, the soil becomes more and more compacted. So in this situation, instead of going and tilling all the stubble, like you've done the harvest and you've got the stubble left, well, instead of going and disking it in or tilling it in, you leave the stubble there. You let it sit. And that's all it would look like, basically just a scrubby field. Now, I know we're very familiar in this area with the idea of stubble burning. That happens a lot in the fall, and it's been happening in the spring as well. However, when you burn the field, that pulls certain nutrients out of the soil as well. So, if you do zero tillage, the soil doesn't become more compressed. But it also means that it doesn't get churned up either, and that prevents it from blowing away. The stubble that's left can hold the soil in place, and it will also trap water, which means that you're going to save money on gas and fertilizers. However, the stubble could stop the seeds from getting right into the soil. A lot of seeds will not germinate unless they're in direct contact with soil. So if the seeds fall on stubble instead of on the soil, then you've lost some of your potential crop. And the stubble can make it hard to see new plants sprouting. Now, both of these, there are methods of mitigating this as a problem. You could do crop rotation. This, again, very common. I think most of us understand the concept of crop rotation. The idea of crop rotation is that you're putting a different crop on the field each year, so you don't have the same crop on the field 2 years in a row. As a matter of fact, you really shouldn't have the same crop on the field more than once every 4 years. So what would it look like? So you've got 4 different fields, 4 different crops. The same 4 different fields, the same 4 crops, but they're on different fields in year 2 and in year 3. In year 4, you can go back to the other one. Advantages. The nutrients have a chance to build back up, which makes the soil healthier, and that means the soil will last longer. However, the farmer has to know what minerals each crop takes out. Now, this is not as big a disadvantage as it might initially look, because this is what they do. This is their job. They know this stuff. This is basic information for them. Not all the crops that are going to be used are going to be of equal value, which might hit the bottom line, the profit level a little bit. But again, short term, that is a disadvantage. Long term, the long-term benefits outweigh that short-term disadvantage. Irrigation is exactly what you think it is. It's watering the crops. Now, we don't need to do that really very much here in Manitoba. Saskatchewan and Alberta, you'll find that a lot more. This is a mechanical irrigation system, and what it does is it's connected to a water source, and the water will flow through this pipe along here, and then it will come out these spigots along here. And you see that it's on wheels. Well, this is mechanized, and it's programmed so that it will travel in a straight line from this end of the field all the way across the field, and it will go at a pace that has been predetermined, and it will water the entire field. And that's good because the more water you put on plants, the better they'll grow. The higher your yield, the stronger the plant. Okay, which means that in areas that are dry, we can produce more food, which, considering the state of the planet, we need to be able to do that. However, the sprayers themselves are very expensive, and operating the sprayers are expensive. And there is a certain ethical question about giving water to plants when there isn't enough clean water for everyone to drink. Now, that's not a big concern here in Manitoba or anywhere in Canada. But I mean, you think about some of the underdeveloped nations and think about the fact that people have to walk for 5-6 hours a day in order to get the family water supply. And then we're going to ask them to put the water on the plants instead of using the water for their own drinking. There's some issues around the water. Finally, there is specialized farm equipment that can actually help save soil. So there are special pieces of farm equipment that have been invented to make farming more efficient, effective, and save soil. The ones I'm going to be talking about are air seeders, fat tractor tires, and duckfoot cultivators. So an air seeder, you remember we talked about stubble being an issue? Well, an air seeder acts kind of like one of those air nailers, and it shoots the seed into a predetermined depth in the soil, which means that the seed is going to be in direct contact with the soil. So you don't have to cut the stubble. You don't have to burn the stubble. You don't have to do anything with the stubble. You can just leave it alone. Then there's fat tires. Look how fat those things are. And the whole idea here is that you're distributing the weight of the machine over a larger area. And as a result, you're going to compact the soil considerably less. And finally, the duck foot cultivator. You can see this part here is going to make the furrow, but this part is going to push the soil out of the way. And what it means is that you can cut the grass without cutting the roots. So you're going to be able to cut the grass without disturbing the soil. The fat tires prevent soil compaction, and air seeders place the seed and fertilizer directly into the soil so the farmer never has to reseed. However, as you can expect, the specialty tools, as soon as you add the word special or specialized to it, the price goes up. And so each one of these things is very, very expensive. So again, it has to be cost effective in order for farmers to be willing to use it. And that is it. Those are the 6 that we use the most here on the prairies. You've got some work that you need to do to fill in those blanks that I've given you. Please don't just copy and paste. Instead, try to put it in your own words as much as possible. All right, I'm done. Thanks, guys. Bye.